and welcome to the 11 on 12 News streaming app and on the YouTube and everywhere else you can see us, really. This is the show, if you're just joining us for the first time, where we don't just report the news to you, we explain the news and what it means to you. We're going to start, as we always do, though, with our desk check. All right, we're going to bring in Dan Siegel because he is on the desk again.
This is becoming a regular thing. This is my new desk.
Maybe you should just start working here.
I could.
Bring the laptop, bring the scanner.
You know,
it'd be a little loud, but it'd be okay.
Sure.
All right, what are we looking at on the desk today? A couple of things.
All right, our breaker this morning was a triple shooting in Glendale near 91st Avenue in Bethany home. 3 people were shot, all injuries non-life threatening, so that's good. But police are looking for the shooter. So reporter Tori King was out there live all morning, and we're keeping an eye for developments in that.
Everything pretty much cleared up? Road closures? Done?
There were some neighborhood closures, nothing with any major streets.
It's not really busy once you get off the main streets anyway.
Correct, yeah, it's a neighborhood basically just before Bethany Home becomes Cardinals Way, so in that area of Glendale.
Gotcha, okay, second thing.
Second thing, our breaker yesterday was a police situation in Gilbert where it looks like it'll be a domestic type situation, but you have 2 people who were stabbed to death, and then Gilbert police end up shooting and killing the suspect. So we're still waiting on names of those involved. Any more details on the circumstances led up to the situation. It had Lindsay shut down near Elliott for a good chunk of the day yesterday on the Sunday. We're still waiting for updates from Gilbert PD on the incident itself and Mesa PD that's investigating the police shooting part of the situation.
And OISs take a lot, we call them OISs, they take a lot of time, not just to investigate, but to continue to investigate past that. I mean, usually, right. I've been out there, 8, 10 hours for just I don't want to call it a simple shooting, but just one guy who was shot in the course of committing a crime. This is probably going to be significantly larger.
Well, this one's also a little more complicated too, because it's not just one person shows up or threatens an officer fires. This is a situation the officer walked into where there were civilians who were injured or worse. It became a confrontation with the suspect.
Yeah, I've been out on the street for a lot of years, and usually I kind of put the time in this is, we're not going to find out information for a longer period of time the more complicated the case is.
Absolutely.
So if it's, in this case, multiple stabbing plus an officer-involved shooting plus a fatality, now we're talking a day, maybe 2 before we get him.
And we'll file a records request for the body camera video and the report and all those things, which will come eventually.
It will take a very, very long time. Okay, third thing.
Third thing, Maricopa County Board of Supervisors today is going to do the election canvass. They're going to ratify the results of what we all voted on July 21st in the primary, and we'll officially have those results put to bed and move forward toward the general election.
Now we can take a look right now at the live stream right there. It is supposed to have started 3 minutes ago. It has not started. We'll see if we can dip in to that in just a little bit. But again, this is going to be the canvassing, the official results. You canvass after the whole thing's over, and that's the seal of approval that yes, you won the election. You are moving on to the next one.
And put it to bed and move on to November. And obviously, there's been a lot of eyes and scrutiny on the county elections department and
infighting
and the back and forth with Board of Supes versus county recorder, and it kind of a mess in that sense, but they found their way through. We all voted, and we have results.
Yeah, this went to court, multiple courts, over who had control of the election department, whether or not it was the recorder. The county board of supervisors said, okay, we have control over the funding, so we get the final say of what's happening. County recorder says, of course, no, I am the county recorder. I am literally in charge of all of this, as is my job.
Yep, the recorder has the registration, the elections office has the tabulation, and they have to work together to get it done.
Yeah, just checked a second ago. It looks like it still has not popped up. Hopefully it will in just a little bit. Really, though, this is kind of just a formality. There's not going to be, shouldn't be much discussion. We say that it's a formality, and yet elections are becoming not just a formality
ever since 2020, you'd never know.
Yeah,
but
we really hope.
Generally, this is not a big deal. It's 30 seconds and we move on.
Yeah, County Board of Supes walks in, somebody says, I move, somebody seconds, they take a vote.
Yep.
Congratulations, you're all moving on to the general election. All right, yeah, at 11:04, almost 11:05, it looks like that webinar, as they say, has still not started right now. So we'll move on. We'll see if we can dip in a little bit later. All right, Dan Siegel, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We're going to move on to our big story. All right, our big story today, we actually have a couple of them, but we're going to start with the Twin Falls In-N-Out shooting. This has been making national news for quite some time. This was a shooting at an In-N-Out in Twin Falls, Idaho. This In-N-Out had just opened a week before, and the gunman over the weekend killed 3 people, injured 7 others by opening fire in that area. And it was just a chaotic scene. And really, Twin Falls is not the kind of place where you would expect to see something like that happening. It's a very small town. It's kind of on the outskirts of Boise there. And it really doesn't have a whole lot of, I don't want to say a whole lot of crime, but really it's not all that crazy in that town. It's very small. There is a TV station there and a very small media outlet there as well. But really, to have something like this happen in Twin Falls, Idaho is pretty well unheard of and kind of shocking to everybody in that area. Now, this happened at about 2:29 in the afternoon at the In-N-Out. It's on Blue Lakes Boulevard North. Again, it only opened to the public 1 week earlier. Now, there was a couple of civilians in that area who were armed and returned fire. Now, we're joined right now by Abby Wilt, who's a reporter at KTVB in Boise. Thanks, Abby, for joining us out there. And this is, I can imagine, in this area, and really across the country, this is all anybody's talking about for Idaho. What does it look like out there? You said crime scene tape is still up, and it's been days.
Yeah, so it happened on Saturday. I actually got here like 30 minutes to an hour after it happened, and now there's crime scene tape. The windows, one of the windows that we know the gunman shot in, is boarded up, and there's like a growing memorial outside. But like you said, this is very rare for something like this to happen in Twin Falls. This In-N-Out coming to Twin Falls was a huge deal. That's how small this town was. They were so excited to have a Twin Falls. Like you said, it opened about a week ago. And so then for this to happen so suddenly is obviously a shock no matter where it happens, but especially here in Twin Falls. And because the In-N-Out had just opened about a week ago, it was super crowded. There was a lot of people, long line. There was people that had traveled here because they were so excited to have In-N-Out in the area. And so definitely shocked. Everyone that I've talked to while being here has said nothing but that they're shocked and scared, honestly, because things like this don't really happen in Twin Falls.
Now, give me an idea, because you guys come out of Boise, and I've got some family that live in Idaho, in the area over Pocatello and that area, so I'm familiar with the general area. Never made it as far as Twin Falls, but how far away from Boise are you? And then what does the town kind of look like around it? Are we in farmland over there? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so it's about 2 hours from Boise. Driving from Boise to Twin Falls is all pretty much farmland. There's one little town, Mountain Home, kind of in the middle. Once you get into Twin Falls, at the town, there's a mall, there's the In-N-Out, couple of restaurants, a Target, a Walmart. So there's definitely civilization. It's not fully farmland, but all surrounding it definitely is. And then Twin Falls is really known for its scenery. We have Shoshone Falls in Twin Falls, which is called the Niagara of the West. It's a huge waterfall, and then just beautiful views of the Snake River. So that's kind of what Twin Falls is really known for.
So I want to ask you, give me a quick rundown of exactly how this whole thing happened and how this shooting started and the response to this as well, because being in Idaho, I mean, there were people that stepped in to try and stop this.
Right. So it happened around 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. Like I said, Twin Falls was excited about In-N-Out, so a lot of people had come. Witnesses have told me that they started to hear gunfire around 2:30, started calling 911. A lot of that video that we have seen circulating on social media shows that the gunman parked his car kind of under a carport at the very end of the In-N-Out drive-through and started shooting towards the drive-through. And then witnesses then tell me he put his gun inside of the drive-through window. So you can imagine if you're ordering, you're looking in that window. That's where he allegedly put his gun through. We saw glass shattered on that window yesterday, and now we see it boarded up. So that story definitely tracks. And then after that, 2 armed civilians both had guns on them, and so they started shooting back. I'll get more into them, but that caused the gunman to run directly towards kind of where I'm sitting right now, in a Tesla charging station, which is right behind me. There's like 10 chargers, and he shot 2 people that were sitting in those Teslas charging their cars. We spoke with the son of one of them. He was a taxi driver, and he was charging his Tesla just on his routine shift. After that, the gunman shot himself, self-inflicted gunshot, and then he died on scene as well. That was also near the visitor center. So the Tesla charging parking lot is the visitor center parking lot. And so the visitor center also told us that there were shots fired in their parking lot, which would have been those Tesla chargers. And like you said, so two people stepped up, tried to help. Police say that their actions really were heroic because that kind of scared the gunman away, allegedly. And so one of them was in the drive-through himself. He heard the gunshots, got out of his car and started shooting. The other one was nearby. We actually just talked to his dad. His name's AJ Scott. He was nearby. He started running actually towards the shooter and started shooting himself, but he ended up getting critically injured in the midst of that. He's now in the hospital. So his dad's keeping us in the loop on him and hoping we can talk to him once he's in a more stable condition.
I should say, being Idaho, having been there a lot of times, and again, having family there, it's not exactly unusual for people to be armed in this area. So to have two people that were, returning fire, not exactly shocking, probably may have helped at least pin this guy down just a little bit. Now, we know some of these people were one guy was a healthcare worker, I think, and the other guy was an off-duty state trooper. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's all. We're trying to confirm, I guess, more of those details on who exactly they were, but that is what is circulating on social media. Police said yesterday that one was an off-duty police officer, but we're still working to confirm that ourselves.
Gotcha. So what are the things that, we were looking at some of the video just a minute ago, and you can kind of tell how big or small this town is. And for everybody here in Arizona that's watching, the best example I can give is this is kind of like Prescott Valley. It's about 59,000 people, something like that. So it's small, it's not tiny, it's not gigantic, it's just kind of in the middle, a small rural town here in Arizona. What are you finding when you go out and talk to people? I mean, this has been a couple of days later. I'm sure people are still showing up just in shock about what happened out there.
Yeah, when I first got here on Saturday, I mean, it was pure chaos. I actually just happened to be in the area. And so when you're a reporter and you hear something like this, you obviously go straight there. So that's what I did. And when I got here, people were still running, screaming, crying, just like not sure what was really going on. And there's a nearby Ross. And so I guess a lot of people were running out of the In-N-Out and went into the Ross to shelter in place. And we heard that from a lot of the businesses around. A Chili's, people were sheltering in place in a Chili's. There's a Swig. So it was just pure chaos, shock. You hear about these things happening on the news and you hear about them in big cities, but a lot of people here, we didn't expect something like this to happen. So people at first were just very, very panicked. And then once we started to figure out a little bit of what was going on, we didn't know that the gunman was dead for several hours. We didn't learn that until around, I want to say 6 o'clock was when that press conference was. And so that's 3-4 hours of not knowing if this is still a really active situation. And of course, with social media, you're seeing a lot of things popping up. You don't necessarily know what's happening. So people were just panicked and shocked at the beginning. Now, as the days are progressing, there's still a lot of people who just are saying, I can't believe that happened in Twin Falls, for one, but two, just it's really sad that they lost 3 members of their community and 7 others were hurt. And so people are definitely taking it hard because it's so sad. One of the workers that died was a worker at In-N-Out. In-N-Out confirmed that, and so a lot of people are posting on social media that they knew that worker and that they knew these members of the community who lost their lives. And so people are now starting to grieve. We're seeing that with the flowers that are coming to In-N-Out, and just when you're going into restaurants and stores now and talking to people, it's very solemn. It's not like a happy time around here at all. Definitely solemn, and people are still scared, truthfully.
53,000 people, of course, I'm sure somebody knows somebody that was involved in this. And really, I think that's why a lot of people are paying attention to it, and why we're talking about it down here is because this is not the kind of town, and I hate to say this, but where you would expect to see some sort of shooting like this. But I guess it just is starting to show that this can happen literally anywhere, from Phoenix to Boise to Twin Falls to Coeur d'Alene to Spokane. It can happen literally anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people were saying is you never know. And there's like times when you think something might be happening, but a lot of times we'll brush it off like, oh, I don't think that would ever happen in my town. And so that this did happen, I think people are just obviously really shocked. And because it did happen at this restaurant that had opened so recently, like 1 week ago, I think people are shocked at that as well. I've been covering this In-N-Out coming to Twin Falls for about 2.5 years now. It was a very, very big deal to get this In-N-Out in Twin Falls and get the permitting for it and figure out where the drive-through was going to be. So the grand opening was last Friday, and then for this to happen just a week later is just beyond devastating.
I mean, we still have people line up for In-N-Out down here. Of course, it would be, very, very newsworthy and a very big deal. Last thing I have before I let you go here, they have identified the gunman by name, right? 24-year-old Chad Williams. Is there any information other than that about this guy?
We actually just learned about an hour ago that he attended the College of Southern Idaho, which is down here near Twin Falls. He attended it from August of 2022 to December of 2023, but the College of Southern Idaho says he did not graduate. Other than that, we're not learning a lot of new information about him. Police are working to investigate, and they're working with the College of Southern Idaho now to get more information about him. But yeah, 24 years old, Chad Williams, and that's about all we know right now. We don't know a motive. We don't know why this happened. We don't know why In-N-Out. So definitely still a lot of unanswered questions for everyone here who is scared and wondering.
All right, Abby Wilt from our sister station, KTVB. Thanks a lot for joining us. A lot of information. Thank you a lot. Great job out there. Of course, we'll have a lot more on this story coming up on 12 News. I'm sure at 1, at 4, 5, and 6, because as we said, everybody is talking about this. Now, I do want to dip into the County Board of Supervisors meeting where they are in the middle of canvassing right now. We'll dip in and see what they're talking about. Or actually, I guess we'll just look at it. Apparently there's no audio coming through there. So that's, they're taking a look at the voter turnout right now, historical turnout. We know turnout was pretty low this year. They're looking at the 30-year average right there. For the primary, it looks like 2026, the national average, 26%. Again, it's low, it's a primary, 27% for the state average. So probably be a good amount of historical and voter registration and turnout data before the county actually gets to the actual canvassing and approving those results. So while they do that, we are going to go on to our next segment here called the follow-up. All right, the follow-up is something that we have been talking about, at least in my house. A lot of my family is still up in the Northwest, and it is going to be those fires that are in Spokane, and it is devastating up there. If you haven't seen any of the video, it happened very quickly, very large fires that swept through a large part of this town. Now, Spokane is, give or take, about 250,000 people. 65,000 of those people have been evacuated from their homes on very short notice. They had extremely dry and, for them anyway, very hot weather up in Spokane. This fire started down near sort of the Spokane River, immediately started heading northwest, driven by the winds, and just started mowing through neighborhoods, entire neighborhoods. Right now we know at least 600 structures have been lost in just one fire. They're estimating 700 structures in all of these fires, because the quirk with this is there are actually 3 fires and they're sort of heading toward each other. Hopefully they don't merge, but right now they're being dealt with as a complex fire. That's a term that fire managers use when you've got more than one fire in an area and you have to coordinate all of the firefighting efforts between all of these separate fires in one tiny little area. But in the last 24 to 48 hours, a lot of people have been coming back to their neighborhoods and finding out that everything they love is just gone.
Yeah, here, look at this house.
Look up there.
Oh my God, that house on fire. Look at this house here.
Yeah. Look at all these burnt down right here.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at the whole block's gone, dude. Oh my.
This morning I came back and came around the corner and I saw my chimney.
The windows got so hot they cracked. Molding was melting off the side door. There was piles of burning compost.
We had a water truck that we use for hauling water to cattle when we're, in dry season. So we have 2 trucks out here that we're using, and then the neighbors have found stuff, and my niece and my nephew went and grabbed this thing to help out.
I built that steel thing on top of the chimney in shop when I was a little kid.
Yeah, and all those people just coming back to neighborhoods that now look like this. And this is an area called 9 Mile, actually 9 and 5 Mile up there, and Indian Trail, 5 Mile Prairie area. These are some larger homes. These are some older homes. People have lived there for a very long time. And you see just how fast that fire swept through there. This is sort of on par with some of those wildfires that you see going through California. There was very little notice to get out of the way of a lot of these. And you know what? When you hear fires in Arizona, you know that you can evacuate entire neighborhoods and entire towns, and they are blocked off. There are police officers everywhere. People are kept out of this area. That isn't really happening in Spokane because this moved so fast. There was not enough time to block all of this area out. You see what's left there, just the bricks, just the rock. There's furniture in the backyard. There's the remains of the houses, but that's about it. The timeline of this. The governor warned on July 31st that there would be some truly dangerous, in his words, severe fire weather for the weekend. Dry conditions, winds 20 to 50 miles per hour expected out of the Cascade Mountains, which are to the west of Spokane there. There was already a wildfire emergency on Saturday morning, but then 4 o'clock to 7 p.m. on Saturday the 1st, that's when the fires started to break out, within just hours of each other. There was the Old Trails fire. That's been, so far, one of the worst. It's near Airway Heights. It's a little town outside of Spokane where the airport is. The Autumn Lane fire was near 5 Mile Falls. Then you have the Fairview fire near the town of Meade, which is a little bit on the other side. You have all these three kind of burning toward each other. Wind gusts of up to 44 miles an hour that were pushing the flames northeast into the populated areas. Now that area of Spokane you can see right there. You've got homes that are have a fair amount of land around them, but you've also got some neighborhoods that are just tightly packed in there. And if a fire goes through, all of that open area is just giving it more fuel to burn and gain intensity before it gets somewhere else. There has been a lot of work to try and fight these fires and put them out and try to keep them from homes. They've saved a lot of homes. Again, we're talking 65,000 people that were evacuated in there. And I don't want to say only, but only 600 structures. We don't know the breakdown. We don't know if these are outbuildings. We don't know how many of these are garages, how many of these are full-on homes. But we know a lot of homes have been lost. You see Spokane County Fire District, they're spraying down everything they can. If they can get anywhere close to try and save some of these houses. Sunday, August 2nd, or I should say Saturday night, let's go back a little bit, August 1st. That's when the fires start going into the Indian Trail in the 5 Mile neighborhood and start destroying homes. The fire chief says there is not a fire department in the U.S. that can handle a wind-driven event this size. Really, the only ones that have a whole lot of experience with this would be California, and a lot of resources have been pouring into Spokane lately to try and fight all of these fires. And again, once it gets into a tightly packed neighborhood, those homes are so close together, one goes up, you can try to protect the others, but it's very, very difficult to do. There has been a lot of air support that has been dropping fire retardant on this area, just plane after plane after plane, filling up in ponds, filling up in the river, filling up in the lakes. The Spokane River goes right through that area. And again, they have managed to save just a lot of homes. But one thing that has really complicated things in the last 24 hours, they have had more than 24, let me look at this, 26 civilian drones have been flying into the restricted airspace. Now, whenever they have firefighting efforts with air support, with the large tankers, the giant DC-10s that drop a lot of fire retardant, they put up what's called a TFR, temporary flight restriction. You cannot fly in that area at all. Fire officials only. When you fly a drone in that area, and we harp on this every time we have fires around here in Arizona too, they have to ground the air support at that point because they don't want any of these guys who are already flying low and slow with absolutely no room for error and a lot of weight inside that plane. If they hit a drone, they don't know what's going to happen to that plane. They have a good idea. They don't really want that to happen at all. So if you fly a drone in that area, as 26 people apparently have, they have to ground all of their aircraft on the air attack. 2 drone operators apparently were cited by the sheriff's department already. We're going to find out a lot more information about these fires in the coming days because people are still just getting back in there and trying to find out exactly what has happened in there. I used to work in Spokane. I've covered a lot of fires in that area. Usually these fires, while terrible, will destroy a couple of dozen homes. Nothing like this has ever been seen in the area. The mayor, Lisa Brown, called it the worst natural disaster the region has ever faced. And federal support is being mobilized to try and do something about this and try to get these fires out. Again, air support is on the way. Any more drones, though, and they'll have to ground it for a little while longer. Just terrible video coming out of Spokane as a lot of people are still evacuated and in shelters and in Red Cross shelters and just waiting to see what happens to their homes now. Again, the fire is not out. It is still burning in that area, just, we hope, a lot less intense than it was before. All right. From those two things, we're going to move on to our one good thing. This is what we do here at the 11. We have one good thing to end the show, and it is one good thing to kind of take along with the rest of your day. And today, that one good thing is anonymous. We don't actually know who our one good thing is because he is the guy who helped 77-year-old Patrick McGee survive. Now, Patrick McGee was on a Southwest Airlines flight. It was landing in Phoenix July 29th. He suffered a heart attack on that flight. It was a flight from Omaha that was coming to Phoenix. McGee says he was clinically dead. His heart stopped, and a woman who was seated next to him performed CPR on him, saved his life. He's doing just fine now. We talked to him just a little bit ago. You see him there in the hospital gown, up and talking. Seems like he's doing just fine. He said he was making small talk with that woman who was sitting next to him right before he had that medical emergency. He had the heart attack. He said we were talking about life, and then he said the next thing he knows, he's in an ambulance. Didn't know what happened. He doesn't know who that woman is. He is searching for whoever this was to try and thank her for saving his life while on that Southwest Airlines plane. He learned much later, after he was already in the ambulance, that that woman who was sitting next to him was the one who performed CPR, kept the blood going, kept him alive until the plane landed, he could be taken off that plane, and then the paramedics could take over. Publicly searching for her right now, he says he owes this person a great deal. Patrick McGee, 77 years old. He's got a son, grandkids, a wife, brothers. He's crediting whoever this woman is with the fact that he is still alive to talk about it and talk about it with them. And he's recovering right now at Abrazo, Arizona Heart Hospital in Phoenix. You can look at this or watch this entire story. Gabriela Becerra did this story. It is currently on 12news.com. Great story. Hopefully we find out who this woman is. And it also is a fantastic reminder to learn CPR. You never know when you're going to be in an emergency like this, some sort of medical emergency. You never know when you're going to need to know CPR at 30,000 feet. You could save a life like Patrick McGee as well. All right, we're going to dump right back into the County Board of Supervisors to see exactly what's going on right there. It looks like they are. There we go.
So
We've got a little bit
we'll
of
look
audio
to
now.
the Secretary
We'll dip into,
and
to listen to them for
those
just a
candidates
second.
themselves need to file the names of their lieutenant governors with the Secretary of State's office as well. And the Secretary of State's office will be sending that information to each of the counties.
So do you have an idea, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, do you have an idea yet of how it will appear on Maricopa County's ballot or not yet?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Galvin, I don't know the specific details yet.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott, I want to give you you and your team and the recorder's team a big round of applause. That turnaround time from where it used to be to where it was today is incredible. So thank you very much for that. I got a lot of feedback from friends and family and folks that were really impressed with how quickly we were able to provide our results. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we've got in the state is in reporting. So good job. I appreciate that. Madam Chair, I've got a couple of questions I wanted to find out about. The ability to walk up and vote and show your ID and vote in person with your green ballots or your early ballots, that really impacted the turnaround time for results.
Again, this is the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. They are asking some questions about the primary election. They will be certifying the election results here shortly, and of course we'll have more on that coming up. Thanks for joining us right here on the 11. I'm William Pitts. You can watch a lot more of the 11 on the 12 News streaming app and on YouTube, and of course We'll see you right back here for 12 News at 1, 12 News at 4, 5, and 6.